Hey guys, God bless. Hope everyone is well. This is Minister Hagar, Prophetess Hagar, and I wanted to come to you guys today regarding Zion Oil and Gas, just to share some information and something really cool that I noticed, a few things that I noticed, and also there's going to be what I feel is a very important, deeper message inside of all this. So, I just got done watching Coach's latest video. I believe it was uploaded today. Yeah, today. Regarding the Zion Oil and Gas update. I'm not going to play the video, but I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know who this is and you know where his channel is, or you're probably already subscribed. I will, however, leave the link to this update video in the comments below my video in case you want to check out the video and in detail. But basically, a few things stood out to me regarding his update today, and I felt that it was very profound. The first thing, no, I'll go to the second thing first. So the second thing, he was just mentioning, voting for the, I guess, annual shareholders meeting. And many of you may have gotten like that email saying, you're able to vote regarding the shareholders meeting. And that's just something routine, I guess, when you're invested in a company, for the investors to, some company extend, like they allow their investors to vote or feel like they have a say-so or have access to listen in on the meetings, etc. So many of you may have gotten these emails from Zion, and I'm sure from other companies you're invested in. But the important thing that stood out to me was that even though I already knew this, seeing it today, for some reason, it crystallized in my mind and reminded me that their annual meeting is will be in June, this June. I think on here it said, let's see, you have to have your votes in by June 7th, I believe. You guys can watch Coach's video. Okay, yeah, saying vote by June 7th. So I'm assuming, okay, perfect. It's saying the annual meeting will be held on Wednesday, June 8th of this year. So the reason why that stood out to me and gave me kind of a nudge is that, June is one of the months inside of that prophetic time frame. And so I find it very interesting that they're going to have their annual meeting this year in June. And a lot of things have been popping up regarding between May, highlighting June, and then going into late summer, the between June and August time frame. Several things are all popping up regarding between June and August. And I find it very interesting that Zion is going to have their meeting in June. Now, it's annual, so it's they have this meeting every single year. So it's not like this is a new meeting. I'm not saying that. However, I find that where they are inside of their process with the second well that they're drilling. Well, that's interesting. Anyways, just due to some of the things of where they are in the process of getting testing done, etc., it's like a lot of people are waiting to see this upcoming meeting because we're at a point that I don't think we have been with this company before. And also, there's been certain movements and processes that they haven't necessarily reached before or during the first well. So, and let me put this out there and make this clear. I'm not saying in this meeting they're going to announce oil, and you're going to find by the end of this message, it's not always about chasing after what seems like the biggest deal or what seems like, the glittery and gold and what seems like the most important part in a situation. Sometimes, guys, it's all about the still small voice. Sometimes it is about something that seems small and seems so unimportant and doesn't seem that flashy and loud and spectacular, okay? great things can come out of something so small. Even when in the New Testament, when all they had was a few fish or a few loaves, Jesus was able to multiply that into a huge feast to feed thousands of people. And we're seeing that right now, right? With the wealth transfer, he's taking people. We're not rich people. Most of us are barely scraping by. He's taking people that have nothing but a few pennies here and a few dollars there, and he's miraculously multiplying that into great wealth, okay? So it's really all about if he's touching something or not. It's not about whether the money is there, whether all these other factors are there. It's about if he's touching it and multiplying it or not. That's where the power is, not how successful a company or a person is or any of this other things. It's really all about what God is deciding to do and if he's touching something or not. That's what multiplies and makes something profitable and fruitful, guys. And not just with this stock, but with everything. And so ultimately, that's what it comes down to. And so I wanted to make that clear. I'm not promising or prophesying that in the meeting in June they're going to announce oil. I really don't know what they're going to announce or say or not say. However, what I'm saying is I find it very interesting as far as the time frame that their meeting is in June, and that between June and August window, prophetically speaking, we have a lot of confirmations and a lot of events all taking place in that window. Even going back to my last video regarding the effects of Sheba due to the upcoming Ethereum merger, even that window matched up in a line where they said they think this upcoming merger, or at least even the excitement and momentum around it, is gonna positively affect Sheba between June and August window time frame. So there's a lot of things all aligning, and so to add Zion to the picture, I thought that was very interesting. Okay, so let's move on to my second point. The second thing that stood out to me in his video that kind of tapped my prophetic shoulder, got my ears perked up, was that, so he's going through these articles, which he has been doing over the last, I would say, week or so. He's been sharing these mainstream articles regarding Zion Oil. It's not just us coming on because it's a prophetic stock or a Christian prophecy or from a biblical perspective and us hoping and dreaming and going over the charts. Now Zion is starting to make its way onto the mainstream circuit of people are starting to say, hey, wait a minute. They're starting to take notice to it over something that the world, by all intents and purposes, the stock has been pretty much worthless. Zion has not been that forthcoming with information, admittedly. A lot of people, are not happy with their style of communication and being so secretive, and a lot of other things going on with the company. So there's a lot of things on paper or worldly events and things, but we don't, the kingdom doesn't operate by that, right? We're the opposite. But there's a lot of worldly factors and factoids and pieces of information on paper that makes the world look at Zion and say, oh, that's not worth our time. That's not worth anything. That's not going to ever go anywhere. That doesn't mean anything, right? So the price has been extremely low. Things have not been going well on multiple fronts. And they even left, I guess, the main stock market down to the OTC. So in the world's eyes, it's like you're less than dirt. There's no reason for us to talk about you or have momentum or be encouraged or for you to catch our eye, right? We don't see any value and beauty in that because there's not a dollar sign behind it. And that's how the world sees everything. When there's not dollars behind it, they look at you as worthless. And so my message today is to make sure that the church, we don't take on that same mindset and eyesight of the world, right? And so as he's covering these articles, he's starting to say, well, wait a minute, there's an uptick in article coverage and different platforms and media outlets that are secular and worldly that are now starting to, even one article he recently shared where they were dogging Zion out to the ground, and then their very next article was pumping Zion Oil up saying, hey, oh, they got this going on. This is happening. So I say all that to say what caught my attention is that the momentum is starting to build on the secular stage regarding Zion. The activity is starting to build momentum. They're starting to release these positive news stories regarding it, and it's only adding to the momentum and excitement amongst people. It's starting to spread and catch the attention of maybe people outside of, Christians and prophecy, is catching the eye and attention with these secular articles of a broader audience or spectrum of investors. And I do believe that that's bringing in a lot of excitement, or at least starting to have people pay attention or look at it and take it serious as a potential investment and prospect. Now, that all brings me to my ultimate point, which is, if you guys watched, and this is regarding a Zion prophecies that were fulfilled within the last few days. And for all intents and purposes, like I said, if it's not glittery and flashy and popular and well known and the big crowd isn't around it, and it isn't about, oh, we struck gold and oh, we made a bunch of money. A lot of times when all of that flashiness isn't happening, there's a lot of things that can fly under the radar and you won't even know it. And there's a lot of possible blessings and treasures, not just financially, but also spiritually, that you will miss out on if all you're looking for is everything that's big, bright, bold, popular, and glittery, because that's how the world operates. So in a lot of ways, the church does take on a worldly mindset and a worldly way of saying and thinking and perspective. But if you watch my last video, I actually wasn't even talking about Zion. I was talking about Sheba and Ethereum merger. And for some reason, I used an example of Zion Oil in my video. And if you guys remember and watched it, you heard me say, it's not all about necessarily everything playing out and happening the way the world needs it to happen for something to be prosperous. If the Lord's hand or his spirit is touched something and on it and he wants it to prosper, it doesn't matter, guys. It's going to prosper one way or another. It doesn't matter if it comes through adding 2 + 2 = 4 and this equaled that, and so that matched up. It can happen that way, but it doesn't have to, because God is not in a box and he's all powerful. So we can have all of the facts and data and fleshly information be completely, show signs of something being impossible or never going to happen, but that doesn't mean that God is still not going to make something happen. And so in this video that I just released, look at the date, guys, the April 25th. That night I released this video. I said it's more about people, how they think, the momentum, people's behavior, and what they believe. Okay, if excitement comes, if that lends to momentum, and people will hop on something and they will invest and jump on. Okay, it's not all about facts and figures and numbers and company profits and all this other stuff. What mostly drives prices up and down is people and what they think and what they believe, whether that belief is right or wrong. Okay, it doesn't matter. Things can still become very profitable. And so we've seen that within the last few days of where, according to the data, according to on paper, according to all the facts, quote unquote, there's no real reason for this upshoot in Zion. However, that is what's going on. And I will show you a little bit more insight of part of the reason why that happened in a second. But just as I was saying, I shared in this video using Zion as an example that, and I just said it that night, that it's really about what people believe and momentum. That is also another way that brings us prosperity or fruitfulness or value to a stock or an investment or really anything. And so I want to now show you, that was from the night of April 25th. I spoke that, okay? And one of the main reasons why I made this video is to get us to think about what we speak. Okay, because we do have power of life and death in our tongue. That's in the Bible. Okay, so we can speak life into something or we can speak death into something. And If we know something is in God's will and we know his hand is on it and we know he's prophesied regarding it, it's not like we're just trying to speak our own will into pass of everything, every random thing. But if we know that it is God's will, then we have the authority and we have the green light to continue to speak life. Speak it all the way into that prophecy is fulfilled. And actually that only brings it quicker and brings it closer into manifesting. When you speak death or negativity, you push it further out and further away because you're lending your faith and your words and your power to that. So that was from the 25th when I spoke on it being more about people's belief and building excitement and momentum that can make something profitable. And look what happened, guys. This is the chart for Zion. The very next morning I posted that in the evening time. So by the time I posted that, went to sleep, when I woke up the very next day, we can clearly see from the chart that the biggest spike within the last, they haven't had a price this high in a minute. They've been down bad. And so, yeah, before I made that video, it was kind of climbing up there. But if you see, where does it hit that peak of the mountaintop? It hits the peak in the mountaintop the very next morning after I spoke that life. Okay, after I spoke that regarding it's not all about facts and figures, okay? For something to necessarily take off or be profitable or to make us prosper, for us to see, to bear fruit out of something. The very next morning, I wanted to really show you guys this to illustrate the point of how important this is, okay? What we're speaking and what we're believing and where our faith is it dependent on facts, figures, and numbers? Or is our belief breathing life into the prophecies? It takes more than just hearing a prophecy once and then we all go sip lemonade and it comes to pass. If that's the case, 2020 would have never got interrupted from us. You have to keep praying into something. You have to keep pouring faith into something. You have to keep speaking life and bearing witness to that prophecy, guys. It's almost like having a baby. It's a process. You have to keep testifying to it. Okay? And that brings it closer and closer and closer into being birthed into the natural. So without getting too deep off into that subject, I'll have a separate video on that. And that applies to not just investments, but all of the good things we want in our lives. But for the sake of this video, sticking with Zion, I really wanted to show you guys and illustrate how that works. So, I also saw this when I watched Coach's video on Zion today. I also remembered, ding, 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 I happened to see this verse posted by a lady on YouTube, not coincidentally, but completely unrelated. And it's Psalm 102:13. And it says, you will rise up, talking about the Lord, and have compassion on Zion, for it is time to show her favor. The appointed time has come. Okay? For your servants delight in her stones. And if you guys have been keeping up with what I've been releasing, you already will understand. I'm not going to get into it. You either, are aware of it or you're not. But the words and things that I've been giving regarding the stone and the precious stones. But getting back, focusing on Zion, I thought that this verse was very prophetic and significant, talking about the appointed time has come and the season to show favor on Zion has come. Okay? And this is a time when the Lord, for Zion to receive her favor and the appointed time, as far as this verse, it took the Lord to rise up and have compassion on Zion and to grant her favor anyway, because it was her appointed time to come into all of the good things, okay? And so I really wanted to share that verse, and I wanted to attach that prophetic power and faith of declaring this verse over Zion Oil and over the kingdom and over our investments regarding it, right? And so let's move on. So I want to share something else. This is another prophetic prophecy pronunciation, guys. Prophets don't always know when they're prophesying. So remember when I mentioned earlier about everything that's big and production, and it's not always going to be about someone screaming from the rooftops and exclaiming, or, oh, I had a dream. And a lot of times things that seem so subtle, the Spirit is still at work, and you can miss very valuable things and very important things and very profitable things. Prophets don't always know when they're prophesying. When you are just a prophet, and even if you're a prophet or not, even if the Spirit is just on you and resting on you and moving through you guys, you don't always know what you're saying. You don't always know that you're prophesying. You're just speaking. You don't even realize that the Spirit is speaking through you 100%, of the time. And so this was something that I posted back on the 19th. And someone was saying how not the markets, but oil was down, yet Zion was up. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I shared this back on the 19th regarding a prophetic word entitled Zion being one of the diamonds or a main diamond in the rough. And I'm just saying, a viewer left a comment on my Diamonds Dream video saying that the Holy Spirit shared with them Zion would be one of the diamonds in the rough. The rough is the economic downturn or bear markets that will occur. But that during a time when most things are down bad, Zion would grow and thrive. I don't know the time frame or which bear market run this will happen in, as I'm sure we will see several. I also can't necessarily validate that this was from the Lord. However, I'm only passing this word along and sharing it, what he shared with me. Okay? So there was a pinnacle moment when I made the decision to share. When you share something, guys, you are, I don't want to say breathing life into it, but you also are magnifying the voice and the reach and the spread of that prophetic message. So a lot of times it comes down to a simple decision of what you decide to keep hidden under a rock and what you decide to say, you know what, let me go ahead and share this, Let me magnify the voice of this. I was responsible. I said I can't confirm or guarantee or validate that it is from the Lord. However, there's nothing anti-biblical or anti-Christ about the statement. So there's no real harm in me passing this along and sharing this word, okay? And just putting it out there. And lo and behold, directly after I shared this word, I believe that's around the time that Zion really started to climb up there, really started to climb up and come out of that, deep hole they were in. And someone was making a comment that the other day, now on the 24th, I believe, or 25th, a couple days later, after me sharing that diamond in the rough. And guys, even that phrase diamond in the rough speaks to more than just Zion or an investment. Remember what I said earlier about finding value in places that don't seem important, don't seem that profitable. It's in the rough, but there's great treasures buried in places where most people don't care to pay attention to, or don't think is important, or they don't think is flashy or popular, or they don't think, oh, this is not going to make me money or fill my pockets up. There's a lot of treasure, both financial and non-financial, that a lot of people can miss out on because they are not looking in the right places. They only have their eyes set on one specific type of place. Okay? So that diamond in the rough word is about more than an investment. It's about getting us to open our eyes, okay, and look around outside of, I'm not saying it's something bad with what's popular and flashy. We can include that too. What I'm saying is that's not the only direction we need to be looking in, because there's going to be a lot of other treasures or things that are going to fly under our radar or that we're not going to know about. Okay. So let's get to this. So on the 24th or 25th, someone was saying, I think that oil was down, all the other oil was down, but Zion was up. And hold on, I think I'm missing something. Okay. And so I responded, I shared and said, that makes sense that oil is down, but Zion is the only one that's up, because I was referencing them back to my diamond in the rough word, not my word, but the word that I shared and passed along from one of my viewers, that, and it said, since it was in the rough, the diamond in the rough, that when things get rough or other things are down, Zion would go up and grow the opposite direction, right? And then a few days later, that came to pass. Within a couple days, oil was down and Zion was just steady climbing and climbing and climbing. And it wasn't one of those times, because a lot of times Zion will have a good day, and then it'll go right back down. No, it just kept going up and up as the rest of the stocks and oil kept going down and down and down. It kept going up and up and up. And I shared with that person, I shared a word the other day, guys, that Zion could possibly be the diamond in the rough, and this is how it's going to operate. Not necessarily attaching a specific time frame, but be on the lookout for that. And so that was something that it was easily missed. And so I was also just sharing this, including that when I decided to publicize and share that word about the diamond in the rough, I breathed life into it. The thing is, we have power of life or death in our tongues. As with any institution or business, I'm sure there's all sorts of funny business going on there. I'm referencing Zion. However, we have authority over all of that. So it's all about whose voice is louder, the voice of corruption, delay, interference, lack, failure, or the voice of victory, prosperity, prophecy, etc. Okay? The more we repeat victory and success and speak of it as it is already, that's the word of God, in case you don't know, even though it may not be, that's how Christ raised people from the dead. He called them forth as they were living, even though that's the power, that the resurrection power that brought the dead to life. Him speaking it as if it was, okay, even though it may not have been. So once again, guys, this is getting us to think about what we say and what we give our faith and energy to and what we put out there. And what voice is louder, speaking life and God's will and prosperity and prophecy and lending a witness to that. Because the more you witness and repeat something, you're being a witness towards that prophecy. Okay, you're lending faith and power to that prophecy. Okay, continuing on, the more we repeat victory, success, and speak of it as it is, though it may not be. So regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the facts, regardless of how it is on paper, regardless of how it seems in the natural, regardless of what the world says or thinks about something, it's all about whether God has his hand on something or not. That transcends all of those data points, okay? The opposite of how things are going, and that was clearly illustrated in what happened, because Zion went up when oil and everything else was down. And I mean, according to it had no real reason to go up like that. The company's not doing well, and that's not a secret, guys. A lot of things going on behind the scenes that aren't on up and up. You know, they haven't made an announcement that oil, I mean, it's a faith-based thing and a momentum that grew, just as I spoke when I first said that in my Shiba Ethereum video. And then lo and behold, that's how everything played out. And so I'm saying, and it went in the opposite direction, which is a picture of how the church is supposed to be, right? The world walks by sight. We walk by faith. And so that's just a symbol of why it went up when everything else was down, regardless of whatever else is going on, whatever else is true or not true, right? And so the louder we are, it generates the momentum for change within the spirit. And that is what brings what was promised into being, into life. Romans 4:17. Even with, okay, so, and I'll just share a couple articles. This is from a few days ago, where it wasn't just oil that was down and Zion was up, but obviously the market in general is just not in a very attractive place right now. It's kind of all over the place, had some really bad days. This is just saying the market is set for the worst month since April of last year, a whole year ago. And it was just saying the market is sinking. Quote, "We can't sustain this." And then they just have in their picture panic, inflation, all these other factors that just have the finances down. And during this very time, Zion went up. Here's another article from the 26th. So the 26th is specifically the market was down bad, specifically on this day. Stock market today, Dow bloodbath as earnings disappoint. Even tech tanks, and usually tech does pretty well even if everything else is doing bad. So we know specifically on the 26th, it was a complete bloodbath with everything. However, on that specific day, look at where the peak of the mountain is for Zion on the 26th specifically, which was a few hours after I spoke, which I wasn't trying to prophesy or nothing like that, guys. I was just speaking, and lo and behold, the Spirit was speaking through me. So it's in that video if you care to go back and listen to it. Let me see, was there anything else? I just thought this whole example, how this played out, it's one thing for somebody to claim something and to tell you something and people to say things, but I thought it was really cool that this actually manifested in the prophecy. Actually, all of these prophetic words, even though I didn't know they were prophecies and prophetic words at the time, I was just speaking, and sharing. I thought it was really cool that everything played out to the T exactly the way that it did, because it was meant to illustrate a point to us. And the deeper message behind, the price going up is that, like I said, think about what we're speaking, where our faith is, and how these, the authority that we have and authority that the Lord has is higher and above all of these earthly situations. So we have to be careful where we're putting our energy into and what we're speaking into. Is it life or death? And this is showing you guys, not just me preaching to you, but it's showing you literally what an impact it can have on things, regardless of what's going on or not. This is what happens when we operate and speak by faith and we give witness to what the Spirit has said and what the Spirit wants to do and what it's in God's will to do. When we take authority and speak that and lend our faith to that and add our witness to that, it changes the situation regardless of any other, data or information going on. It can change. It has the power to change it. Okay. And so even in me making this video, this is me speaking more life into Zion Oil and just lending my faith to bringing this closer into existence. Okay, guys, bring it closer into us receiving. Once again, wasn't this verse so cool, talking about Zion, guys? The Lord rising up and having compassion on Zion to show her favor, because it's the appointed time has come for Zion to receive her favor. So I'm declaring that once again over Zion Oil, kingdom purpose within Zion Oil, regardless of the other circumstances. We're calling forth those things into being, what the Lord has established and prophesied and what he has placed his hands upon, and that no man, no choice, whatever behaviors or anything else going on does not have the authority over the Lord's hand. And we are declaring and believing that in Jesus' mighty name. So we are speaking life into this situation, that will overcome any delays, any interruptions, any sabotage, any corruption, anything that has to do with anything delaying or pushing this promise further out. We speak against that, and we take authority over the situation, and we pull that back closer into being, into manifesting, into us receiving in the mighty name of Jesus. I forgot to add, while I'm on the subject matter of Zion oil prophecies come to pass, I also forgot, remember my video on Moses and the wealth transfer, winds and wave increase? And I said, I mean, it's self-explanatory from the title that we're going to see the winds. As the winds increase, we're going to see the waves increase. However, if you go over here to the right, in the comment section at the top, my pinned comment, I was saying, I also meant to add, based on these words, it could be indicating that several smaller, more shallow waves will occur first with either our main whales, and when I say whales, I mean investments, or smaller whales. Okay, and so when I released this and I put all the words I was getting together, I was saying that it seems to be indicating that before, it's not just going to, the huge two waves aren't just going to fall out the sky and plop into our lap. Okay. That before that, it's a process, a momentum builds up before that. That's the whole point behind the word of Moses in that verse, in the Bible verse, that there's going to be coming, and this was what, 5 days ago, there's going to be coming shorter and smaller, more shallow waves are going to occur first. And so we saw that play out 100%. I feel like we are seeing some shorter, shallow waves with price upticks on some of the things we're invested in. And obviously, specifically with Zion, even looking at that, that peak all the way up at the 26, I would say this constitute as, those smaller, more shallow waves before the big wave and increase that we're, looking for and expecting. And what I outlined in my Moses video was that the momentum has to get going first, right? And that's why we're going to see these shorter, more shallow, smaller waves. But nonetheless, it is waves regardless. And so this does, a few days later, this was in the past 5 days. So yeah, that definitely came to pass with Zion. Okay, guys, God bless you. I will catch up with you next time, Lord's willing.